Welcome back, everyone, to HalloweenHaunts365.com, the podcast. I'm Jared.
Hi, I'm Terry.
Today is Season 2, Episode 2, and today we're going to cover A Nightmare on Elm Street 3, The Dream Warriors.
It's 1987. Do you know where Freddy is? There's no waking up from this nightmare. A Nightmare on Elm Street, Part 3, Dream Warriors.
Well, you just saw the coming attractions of the Dream Warriors, filmed a long time ago. We did not steal it, we just borrowed it. Feel free to watch it, YouTube will complain later, but that's just YouTube. Not a lot of news going on right now. We're doing this directly after the other one.
Yeah.
Gotta film when you can. Alright, so Nightmare on Elm Street 3 goes down as my favorite Nightmare on Elm Street. It's a tie between that and Freddy's Dead. What about you?
I would say it's a tie, but it's this one, and I like the first one. That was my favorite.
Alright. The original head. Okay. Let's get into the plot of A Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors, when Freddy Krueger became world renowned and started my obsession. Oh, did you guys see our new clock over there? It was a great... Yeah, you're in the way.
Sorry.
That head out of the way. Check it out. Pretty cool. HalloweenHaunts365.com, the podcast. Merchandise. Still need to get that desk plaque, though, but we'll wait for the new computer. Alright, getting back to the plot. In 1987, a year after the events of Nightmare 2, teenager Kristen Parker dreams Freddy Krueger is chasing her. He attacks her in her bedroom after she thinks she is already awoke, making it look like she slit her wrist in the real world. Awesome scene. Gets hooked onto the sink, rips open her arms, and slashes her with a glove that came out of a faucet. Great special effects.
Yes.
Great scene. Oh, I love that scene. So good. Believing Kristen to be suicidal, her mother admits her to Weston Hill Psychiatric Hospital, where she is placed under the care of Dr. Neil Gordon. At the hospital, Kristen fights the orderlies who try to sedate her because she fears falling asleep. The new intern therapist, Nancy Thompson, calms her down and befriends her by reciting part of the Freddy nursery rhyme. Nancy introduced to the rest of Dr. Gordon's patients: Philip, a habitual sleepwalker; Kincaid, a tough kid from the street who is prone to violence; Jennifer, a hopeful television actress. I don't think she's making it.
No.
Prone to cigarette burns. Will, who uses a wheelchair due to a prior suicide attempt. I don't think I do that. Now I know why he's in a wheelchair. Taryn, a recovering drug addict, and Joey, the youngest who is too traumatized to speak. One night, Freddy attacks Kristen in her dreams, but she unwittingly pulls Nancy into her dreams, allowing them to escape. Cool scene. Freddy sees Nancy as the snake. You!
Yes.
Badass dream sequence. This just doesn't do it justice. Kristen reveals that she has been able to pull people into her dreams since she was young. Over the next 2 nights, Freddy throws Philip off a roof and kills him. That was great. The puppeteer.
Oh, yeah.
The little puppet guy comes walking, turns into Super Freddy, regular Freddy, up to the bell tower, swipes and starts laughing. Oh, such a cool scene. Kills Jennifer by smashing her head into a television while saying,
was a cool thing.
"That's the best scene ever. Welcome to prime time, bitch." Smash. In the next group session, Nancy reveals to the remaining patient that they are the last of the Elm Street kids, the surviving children of those who banded together and burned Krueger to death many years ago. Both Nancy and Neil encourage them to try grip hypnosis so that they can experience a shared dream and discover their dream powers. In the dream, Joey wanders off and is captured by Freddy. Well, if that nurse looked like that, I'm wandering off too. God damn. She was hot. Alright. Joey wanders off and is captured by Freddy, leaving him comatose in the real world. Nancy and Neil are relieved of duty. They're terminated, obviously. A nun, Sister Mary Helena, tells Neil that Freddy is the son of a young woman in the hospital staff who was accidentally locked in a room with hundreds of mental patients who raped her continually, and that the only way to stop him is to lay his bones to rest. So Freddy was never buried. Is an integral part. He and Nancy ask her father, Officer Donald Thompson, he's not an officer anymore. This is wrong. He's now a security guard. If you notice his jacket in the bar scene.
That is correct.
Oh, so this is wrong. Found you wrong. Ask Donald Thompson where the bones are hidden, but he is uncooperative. He's a drunk, lush douchebag now. Nancy rushes back to the hospital when she learns that Kristen has been sedated. Oh, can't wake up if you're sedated. Neil stays behind to convince Donald to help them. Nancy and the others again engage in group hypnosis to reunite with Kristen, but are all separated by Freddy. Taryn is killed by an injection into the arms, where her little heroin goblets were hungry, and then the needle gloves come out. Great scene. She looked badass in that screen too. Will was killed by Freddy in a weird fantasy nightmare. Kristen, Nancy, and Kincaid find one another. The trio rescue Joey, but are unable to defeat Freddy because he has become too powerful due to the souls he's absorbed. Sensing that his remains have been found, Freddy appropriates his own skeleton and kills Donald before incapacitating Neil. The skeleton bit was a homage to that old movie, but really, it was poorly done. I didn't like the CGI behind. Well, you can't really call it CGI. It's where the skeleton came out of the bag and started fighting Neil, and the horrible acting with him. And could have did without that scene, or just make it better. Freddy returns to attack the others, but Joey uses his dream power voice to repel him by breaking a ton of mirrors. Donald tells Nancy that he is crossing over, but he is revealed to be Freddy, and Nancy pushes him away before he can kill her.
What?
Freddy slaps Nancy, who falls to the ground. Freddy, believing that Nancy is dead, comes upon Kristen in order to kill her, but a still alive Nancy stabs him with his own glove. Neil manages to recover and purifies Freddy's bones, killing him. After Nancy dies... See, they worded this weird. Basically, Freddy was her dad, and then stabs Nancy in the stomach with the glove, killing Nancy.
That's right.
I don't know what the hell this is. Anyway, after Nancy dies, Kristen manages to awaken everyone and return them to the real world. During the patient's funeral, Neil finds Amanda Kruger's tombstones and discovers that she is Sister Mary Helena. That evening, he goes to sleep with the Malaysian doll Nancy gave him and Kristen's papier-mâché house, which I need to get one.
What, the papier-mâché house?
Yeah, there's companies that sell them. They're about the same size she has in her room.
Oh.
I can make one, but I ain't got the time for that or the patience. But I think we need a house. I can go right behind
I
me.
was going to say, where are you putting that?
Right there on that bookshelf.
On the bookshelf. Okay.
Anyway.
I'll get on that.
And suddenly, Kristen's house lights up from the inside, suggesting that Freddy is not completely defeated. Alright, cast. I'm going to get to the scoring before we do the cast. Cast for this, for me, I'm going 5. I love Nancy's back. Nancy did an even better job in this one than she did in 1. Donald did an awesome job being a dickhead. You had Kincaid. I really like the people they cast in this film.
I do too. Do it 5.
Fear factor, not scary, but some really cool kill scenes.
Yes.
So I'm going to 4.
4.
Plot, pretty cool plot.
Yes.
It was a cool way to bring Freddy back.
Yes.
It was a cool way to kill Freddy. Could have did without the skeleton scene. But the tie-in with his mom for a little backstory, little Nancy backstory, little kid back, it all played out really good. So I'm giving the plot a 5. Score, the original theme song's back with other undertones. I'm going a 5 for that too. Special effects, a 5.
I would, yeah, I mean, you had the TV.
Or
There was a
can we go
lot.
with 5 with that skeleton scene?
Oh, well, that's true. Maybe we'll go with 4.
We'll have to go with 4.
Go with 4.
Overall, it's going to bring it to a 4. So, I mean, this is a must watch. Even if you're not a Freddy fan, this is a horror must watch. Really, it's what turned Freddy Krueger into Darth Vader. And bigger. Like, even today, you can go to a desert in Africa, ask a little kid who Freddy Krueger is, they know who he is.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, this is the movie that
Made them.
took it to the zenith.
Right.
But let's get to the cast. I was making sure we hit record. I would have been really pissed off if we had to renew all that. It's alright, though. Robert Englund as Freddy Krueger. Heather Langenkamp as Nancy Thompson. Greg Wasson as Dr. Gordon. Patricia Arquette in her first movie as Kristen Parker. Ken Sagos as Roland Kincaid. I had no idea his first name was Roland. I did. They called him that in the movie. Rodney Eastman as Joey Crucell. Jennifer Rubin as Taryn White. Larry Fishburne, Morpheus as Max Daniel, and the dad in Boys in the Hood.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Bradley Gregg as Philip Anderson. Ira Hayden as Will Stanton. Penelope Sudrow as Jennifer Caulfield. Nan Martin as Amanda Kruger / Mary Helena. John Saxon comes back as Donald Thompson. Priscilla Pointer as Dr. Sims. She was a real bitch. Clayton Landy. Huh?
She was.
Yeah. Clayton Landy as Lorenzo. Brooke Bundy as Elaine Parker. Dick Cavett as himself. Zaza Gabor as herself. Stacey Alden as Nurse Marcy. Yeah. Paul Kent as Dr. Carver.
And we still don't know if Zsa Zsa is still alive.
It doesn't matter. It really doesn't. Alright. Development. Following the critical failure of A Nightmare on Elm Street 2, and they said critical because it's more judging fail, because it made money. It made 400% more than it cost to do, so it made money.
Yeah.
So it was more of a shitty movie. New Line Cinema was unsure if they would continue with the series. Wes Craven, who wrote and directed the original Nightmare on Elm Street, did not participate in the first sequel. He had not wanted the original to evolve into a franchise, but co-wrote the screenplay for this movie, with the intention that it would end the series.
Little did he know.
The success of Nurse is on my head. The success of A Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors, prompted a continuation of the series. Craven's first concept for the film was to have Freddy Krueger invade the real world. Krueger would haunt the actors filming a new Nightmare on Elm Street sequel. New Line Cinema rejected the meta-cinematic idea, but years later, Craven's concept was brought to the screen in Wes Craven's New Nightmare. Craven himself would be unavailable for directing as he was tied up with filming Deadly Friend around the same time.
I never saw that.
Me neither. Before it was decided what script would be used for the film's story, Both John Saxon and Robert Englund wrote their own script for a third Nightmare film. And Saxon's script, called How the Nightmare on Elm Street All Began, would have been a prequel story. Kind of need one of them. Freddy would ultimately turn out to have been innocent, or at least set up for murders by Charles Manson, who along with his followers would have been the main culprit of the murders. Freddy would be forced by the mob of angry parents to make a confession of the crimes, which would enrage them further. After they lynch Freddy, he comes back to avenge his wrongful death by targeting the parents' children. Weird turn. Add a little meta to the movie.
Yes.
Weird turn. Who knows how that would have been. In England's treatment, called Freddy's Funhouse, the protagonist would have been Tina Gray's older sister. Okay. Who would have been in college by the time Tina was murdered, and ends up coming back to Springwood to investigate how she died. In the script, Freddy had claimed the 1428 Elm Street house as his own in the dream world, setting up booby traps like Nancy did against him. According to Englund, part of it later ended up being used in the pilot episode of Freddy's Nightmares after the script had been lying around unused for a few years.
Interesting.
Writing. Wes Craven has said about the direction that he and Bruce Wagner wanted to take the franchise in, that we decided that it could no longer be one person fighting Freddy. It had to be a group, because the souls of Freddy victims have made Freddy stronger. He also called Heather to ask her if he may include her character Nancy in the script, which she agreed to. In interviews with the cast and crew and extras, it is revealed that the original idea for the film centered around the kids separately traveling to a specific location to die by suicide. Later it would be discovered that the common link between the use was that they dreamed of Freddy Krueger. Since suicide is a taboo social issue, the storyline was abandoned. Some aspects of the idea remained in the film, because all of them were in there for suicide attempts. In Craven and Wagner's original script, the characters were somewhat different from what we eventually filmed. And that's why, in this poster, none of them match any of them. Ever noticed that before?
No, I never noticed that.
I'll throw a pic up right here so you guys can see what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
Alright, you can see that she's in a white gown. No one wore a white gown. The punk rocker's got white hair. Taryn had all black on. That guy, no one used a mace. Like, it's a beautiful movie poster, but we have no idea who these people are. Never noticed that before, did you?
I never noticed
that. So you're learning
that.
all about this shit that I know. Nancy was not a dream expert nor any kind of mental health professional. Kristen, named Kristen in this... Kristen? It's the same name. Only stayed in the institution for a short while. She had a father, Kirsten, instead of Kristen.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was Kirsten.
Ah. She had a father, and her mother was named Alice. Neil's last name was Guinness, and his character was much younger. Dr. Sibbs' last name was Madalena, and Taryn was actually African American. Maybe.
That's where that came from.
Maybe. Joey was the one who built the model of a house and had trouble getting around. Although he did not use a wheelchair. And Philip was a 13-year-old. Will's name was originally Laredo. He had long hair, did not use a wheelchair, and was the one who made the clay puppet. So all these were switched up. That's weird. This script also describes the ranch house where Krueger was born, and that is the house that shows up in the kid's dream rather than the Elm Street house. I wouldn't have liked that. The Elm Street house has become iconic. You can't fuck with that 3 movies in. Wes Craven specifies the house in the original script to be an architectural portal to Freddy's dreamscape. It is virtually a limitless world of the human psyche in all of its dimensions. So you can enter this other world through the house, or dreams or madness, hallucinations, or special psychic states that various people have. Fucking weird.
That is very weird.
Wow. Contrary to the film, Donald Thompson knew from the start that Krueger was real and still alive. Krueger was missing, and Nancy wanted to find him. When she finds him, Nancy learns that Krueger is obsessed with finding the house where he was born so he could burn it down. What the hell does that have to do with anything? In the original script, there's a romance between Nancy and Neil, and they have boom boom.
They have boom boom.
There are scenes and lines that are reminiscent of the first film. There's no mention that Krueger's mother had been a nun or that Freddy was born of rape. Both Joey and Kincaid are killed. The deaths in the script were more grotesque. Krueger was not as talkative, and he was more vulgar. Freddy is killed by Nancy by using his own glove, not by holy water. And she sees through the shape-shifting trick, even though she still dies. That's interesting.
That is very interesting.
Director Chuck Russell states that Craven's original script was darker and more profane, while Rachel Talalay thought that the script seemed like a $20 million script. Discussing the more humorous elements in the film, Russell stated, "I looked at what Craven did and said, this is absolutely great and terrifying, but I felt that by the time I came along on 3, the way to go is to make the whole idea of dreams and nightmares into a carnival and go further into the dreams and make Freddy Krueger more outrageous and more of an element of dark humor." That worked, and the series went in the direction. And it did work, because if he didn't have that dark clown aspect, he wouldn't be as big as he is.
Yeah. Definitely.
One of the most memorable scenes in this film, and a fan favorite, is the sequence that takes place in the junkyard during the film's climax. The junkyard sequence and the set itself were the product of art director Mick Strawn. Mick also handled some of the special effects sequences on the film and became production designer on the sequel. The sequence was so popular that it appeared again in A Nightmare on Elm Street 4, The Dream Master. The junkyard sequence is filmed in Pacoima, California for both films. Let's get into the casting. Lisa Wilcox and Leslie Dean, who would later be cast as Alice, Johnson, and Tracy, respectively in the following installments, have both reported to have auditions for the role in Dream Warriors. Patricia Arquette was close to being recast early into the shooting, but Chuck Russell interviewed her and had her stay. Oh, wow. So she was almost out to begin with. So that's probably why she didn't make it to the fourth one. According to producer Sarah Reiser, the role that the producers spent the most time interviewing and auditioning for was Marcy, Stacey Alden, the sexy nurse. Yeah. Who seemingly seduces Joey in the dream, but turns out to be Freddy. Nurse Marcy, while seducing Joey, was originally supposed to turn into a she-Freddy, with Aldine wearing Freddy's mask. That would have been horrible.
Yeah, no.
Roy H. Wagner had second thoughts about this after seeing how She-Freddy looked like in practice, stating that Freddy with titties, it was too off-kilter. He said breast, but I use titties. Get over it. The concept of She-Freddy was substituted with having the nurse shoot prehensile tongues, shot tongues at his wrist to trap him. It was a weird scene, but it's a dream, so what are you going to do? In the shooting script, Sally Kellerman was supposed to appear on Dick Cavett talk show, but Cavett allegedly handpicked Zsa Zsa Gabor personally after being given the opportunity to choose who he thought should appear in the show and be slaughtered by Freddy. According to Robert Englund, all of her reactions and dialogue were completely improvised. Miss Gabor, this is from Robert Englund, Miss Gabor, who was probably just grateful to be asked to appear in a movie again, apparently didn't read the script or bother to do any research on the Nightmare flicks. I guess her agent told her, "I have a job for you," and all she said was, "Great. What time should I show up the link?" Not realizing that she was about to throw down with a burnt-to-a-crisp serial killer during the fake talk show where she's interviewed by Dick Cavett. all her reactions seen on film are 100% genuine. She didn't know who the fuck Freddy was, so when I jumped out, she had her mind freak out.
OMG. I guess from there on, she always read the script.
I don't think she'd had many after that, dear. Filming. The storyboards used for the shooting was supplied by Peter Von Schally. Russell originally hired a cinematographer whom line producer Rachel Talalay perceived to be Eastern European. Talalay had the cinematographer fired after he had insulted Penelope Sudrow and replaced him with R.H. Wagner. The Royce Hall building on the University of California, Los Angeles campus was used for the exteriors of Weston Hills. That's pretty cool. So we can go see Weston Hills. While St. Brendan Catholic Church was used for the church scenes. The scene in Freddy's boiler room was filmed at a converted warehouse across the street from Los Angeles County Jail. Mark Shostrom, who was doing work on the set of Evil Dead, possibly smuggled the Freddy glove used in Dream Warriors and used it as a background prop for one day, explaining why the glove showed up in the film. So they were stealing shit and putting it in their movies. That's funny. Special effects. The special effects were created by a team led by Peter Chesney and included Kevin Yeager and Mark Shostrom. For the iconic death stream for Jennifer, where her body is hoisted in the air, Shostrom created a dummy of Penelope Sudrow with fully flexible limbs out of fiberglass and urethane, and then put a matching wig on the dummy. The team built 5 fake televisions, each with different functions, with one being equipped with a rubber membrane, which a dummy of Freddy's head pushed up through, after which they substituted the dummy with Robert Englund. Another was equipped with metal arms, which included Freddy's blades, and vacuum tubes from the television. The line "Welcome to Prime Time, bitch," spoken by Freddy in the scene, was not in the strip, but was ad-libbed by Robert Englund. See? He's just a master. For Taryn's death scene, the team had originally tried for an effect where her head would explode after being injected with drugs. That could have been cool.
That would have been cool.
But could not make the effect work in practice. Instead, they put appliances on Jennifer Rubin's body to show the withering effects of the injection. The skeletal version of the girl that Kristen is holding is the intro sequence was originally a surreal mechanical corpse dummy created by Shostrom, but turned out to be too good for its purpose. Russell was so unnerved by its appearance that he did not dare put it in the film, but had it replaced by a simpler, decayed skeleton. Wow. Shostrom went to the Simon Wiesenthal Museum for inspiration, looking at photographs of burnt children from Auschwitz, and needed 10 weeks to complete the original dummy, while its replacement was created within hours at Russell. Damn, so this guy spent 10 weeks building this thing. We never even saw it.
Nope.
Yeah, that's movies, though. That happens a lot.
It happens. Yes, it does.
Wow. Music. Now, this had some music. Can we get in the token at the Dream Warriors? Should we play the video right now? I think we should play the video right now. Video now. Alright, that was a quick little excerpt from Dokken the Dream Warriors. The theme song Dream Warriors was written and performed by the American heavy metal band Dokken. The single was a success, and the decision was made to include heavy metal songs in the soundtrack of the sequels. The band's manager, Cliff Bernstein, was acquainted with Wes Craven and was able to get a copy of the film script as reference for the lyrics. Robert Englund as Freddy then helped provide unique footage with the band for the music video. Clips of Patricia Arquette as Kristen Parker were also used, with some notable changes such as their model house being built with Dokken fanzines instead of paper mache.
Interesting.
Yeah, they used Dokken magazines instead of paper. Yeah. In the opening sequence of the original VHS release of the film, a hard rock instrumentation version of the Joe Lamont song Quiet Cool plays. When the film was released on DVD, Quiet Cool is replaced by Into the Fire by Dokken. I liked Into the Fire better. Into the Fire.
Yes.
Had more to do with Freddy. A Night of Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors was scored by Angelo Badalamenti and released around 3 weeks prior to the film's theatrical release. The film score was re-released alongside all of the other soundtracks in the franchise in 2017 on the label Death Waltz Recording Company as a box set called A Nightmare on Elm Street Box of Souls, which is currently going for close to $600 on eBay right now.
Yes. Because I looked that up for Christmas.
Yeah.
As a stocking stuffer.
A stocking stuffer.
I was like, okay, no.
Alright, post-production. Both Heather Langenkamp and co-star Craig Watson refer to a scene they filmed in which they kissed but was not included in the film, with Watson saying that, no, we didn't have sex, but there was this one real hot kiss that just about melted the camera lens. Oh, you pimp. And just great movie.
It was a good movie.
Such a great movie. I'm going to see if I can find the financials real quick, because I should have it on here, because I like to see what these movies did. Know what I mean?
Maybe it might be in Fun Facts.
It could be. But we'll go into fun facts while we're doing this. Oh, Into the Fire. Now it's stuck in my head. I want to go watch a movie again. Okay, you want to start reading for us here?
Yes. The Freddy glove was stolen from the set of this film, was found in another movie. It was hanging on the wall of the work shed in Evil Dead 2, released the same year. It was part of the continued banter between directors Wes Craven and
Sam Raimi.
Sam Raimi. See The Hills Have Eyes, The Evil Dead, Nightmare on Elm Street, and Evil Dead 2 for more. Let's see. Ken Sagos stated in an interview he really didn't want to audition for the role of Kincaid, but his agent talked him into going. On the day of the audition, he walked in a heavy rain to catch the bus to the location. He showed up completely drenched and had to sit and wait for a few hours due to the audition running late. When it was his turn, director Chuck Russell told him, do whatever you want to do. He was so frustrated and mad the whole ordeal, and he yelled, fuck you, and then proceeded to scream and curse at Russell. Russell immediately hired him.
That's funny. For the dream sequence in which a Dick Cavett interview is interrupted by Freddy Krueger, Sally Kellerman was originally in the script as the guest, but Cavett was then allowed to pick the person he'd be interviewing. He picked Zaza Gabor because he thought she was the dumbest person he'd ever met in his life,
Oh, good God.
and he'd never have her on the show in real life. So if there was one person he'd want to see killed by Freddy, it would be her.
Wow.
Robert Englund admits that he knew Patricia Arquette would go on to be a big star one day. He also explains how all the guys on the set were head over heels in love with her. Between takes, some of them would even go to England to get his advice on whether or not he thought they had a chance with her and should ask her out. So he's playing like the big dad. That's funny. Jennifer Rubin was told by some of her fans that her character of Taryn had caused them to quit drugs. It's a nice fact.
That is awesome.
Once after a tiring day on set, Robert Englund fell asleep in the dressing room, still in full Freddy makeup. When he woke up and looked in the mirror, he jumped. On the VHS release, the music video for Doken's Dream Warriors appeared after the credits. The video contains many scenes from the movie and ends with the band vanquishing Freddy, causing him to wake up from his nightmare and ask, "Who were those guys?" I remember that. It was actually in MTV videos too. The original premise of the film involved Freddy invading the real world. We saw that already. Mm-hmm. For 1 week during filming, Robert Englund was working 24 hours every day. He was wrapping up filming on the television series Downtown and then would report to A Nightmare on Elm Street 3 at night. So he was doing double duty. Good Lord. Mm-mm. According to Wes Craven, the idea for the mental hospital treating the Dream Warriors was not just some riff on One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, but instead inspired the real-life establishment. At that time, there was kind of a movement of such places that are even advertised on television. Send us your troubled child and we'll make them okay. And essentially they were like prisons or insane asylums. Kind of like the film. It was the film debut of Patricia Arquette and Jennifer Rubin. When the clay puppet's face turns into Freddy's, special effect Doug Beswick used stop-motion animation, and this came out pretty good. Filming began with a clay Freddy face that was made plainer in each frame. The result was to then run backwards to make it look like it turned into Freddy. That's probably easier to do than sculpt, film, sculpt, film, sculpt, film. You just cover, film, cover,
right.
film, cover, film, yeah. This was a funny note. For the sexy nurse scene, the set was flipped so that Rodney Eastman was standing up when he appears to be strapped to the bed. He had to be spread eagle for so long that he actually passed out. He compared the experience to a crucifixion, because if your arms are too high over your head, you will pass out eventually.
Yes.
I didn't know that till I met this movie.
That.
Kristen comes across a classic nightmarish image of a roasted pig on a table, and then it comes to life and growls at her. It was a pretty cool scene in the dream. The pig lunged at her. They actually roasted a pig, let it spoil, and prop guys puppeted it from beneath. That's fucking horrible.
That's gross.
The poor guy was actually behind the camera. Cinematographer Roy H. Wagner claims the pig stench was so overwhelming he could still smell it to this day.
Gross.
In the original script, one of the warriors dreams up a giant Transformer-style robot to fight Freddy. Thank God that was cut. The original Freddy snake unintentionally came out looking too phallic. It was pink. It looked like a snake, so it looked like a cock. The crew only had 1 hour to film the scene, so they didn't have enough time to paint it. So it was covered in a green goo substance to overcome the pinkish hue. The scene involving the Freddy snake attempted to swallow Kristen was also filmed backwards and then played in reverse due to the gums on the puppet being too flexible and were folding over themselves. Oh. That is funny. This is the only film of the first 6 to not begin with a nightmare scene, but it did begin with a nightmare scene. She had a nightmare when he slashed her wrist.
That is true.
Oh, man.
They had a $20 million budget.
No. Well, that's all the fun facts we got for you. The rest we've already covered. Oh, this is interesting. Winona Ryder auditioned for the role of Kristen, but Chuck Russell felt that Ryder was too young for the role. Ryder would later become engaged to Johnny Depp, who starred in the original one. I like hearing about who could have been who. There's not a lot on here, so I guess they kind of knew knew who they wanted, because we usually get so and so was up for that and everything. All right. Back into the financials. We have A Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors. Its budget, which just over $4 million. $4.1 million was the budget, and it grossed $44.8 million domestically. So 100 times what they spent.
Wow.
And honestly, I thought it would have did more, but it's hard to track like the DVD sales and everything. So like this says 44 mil, it could be closer to 200 million by now because people keep buying this.
I was just going to say that, and they still
rent, stream, all that stuff. So that was one of the best Nightmare on Elm Street movies ever. Sadly, I don't think we get another one like that again. Do you?
No.
Makes me want to write a script and reach out to that guy from American Horror Story.
Go for it.
I think he's the only one that can pull off Freddy. I really do.
Yeah, that would be pretty cool to see.
Yeah, I think he's my pick. Well, that's all we have for you today at HalloweenHaunts365.com, the podcast, where every day is haunt season. Goodbye.
Bye.